Call me Snow White, but don't ask me why. It sure ain't how I describe this scenario. Way too frilly. But I didn't ask for any of this. How do you expect me to run in these high heels slip hard on a plate? I had it with these motherfucking apples. And if you think I'm some helpless little princess, well, you better guess again. Cause I'm Snow White, motherfucker, and I'm about to put a bullet in this bedtime story. Pass me that apple.
Hello, Disney. You're gonna have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
Disney's Snow White, starring Rachel Zegler in a modern retelling of the classic story, has been a miserable failure.
When you actively insult, attack, and berate your audience, however, they will turn you off.
Failure looks like empty movie theaters all around the world.
Let's just start with this. There is no reason why Snow White needs to cost $500 million.
The movie was absolutely terrible. It's not the single worst movie I've ever seen, but in every way that the movie differed from the beloved 1937 original, it was worse.
I paid nothing to watch the trailer, but I want my money.
Oh, that's nice.
And funny, this is a joke I made years ago, but if they streamed it on an airplane, I would still walk out.
Yes.
Rooting for the poison apple.
Snow White is officially Disney's biggest box office disaster of all time.
Rachel Zegler just lived through every actor's worst nightmare, sitting in a nearly empty theater, watching her own movie crash and burn in real time. And not even a discount Tuesday could save it. The so-called woke Snow White remake didn't just flop, it disappeared without a trace, leaving Zegler, 23, and a handful of loyal friends as some of the only ones daring enough to witness the disaster unfold. For someone once seen as Hollywood's next big thing, this was a harsh wake-up call. The box office numbers have spoken loud and clear. On March 25th, 2025, almost no one showed up. Desperate to salvage the moment, the woke Snow White actress gathered a few loyal friends, Ilda Mason, Jorge Mason Remy, and Maria Isabel de Mason, to sit through her own film in what felt like a deserted ghost town theater. Thanks to Ilda's Instagram stories, we all got a front row seat to the secondhand embarrassment, because there was hardly anyone else there. As Zegler's name popped up on the screen, Ilda screamed it with excitement, only for Rachel to awkwardly laugh and cheer for herself. Whether they rented out the theater or the empty seats just came as a bonus with the film is unclear, but the group did their best to make the most of the uncomfortable moment. They even jumped on a viral trend, walking up to a Regal employee and playfully asking, "2 tickets, please." But when he innocently responded, "For which movie?" the camera panned to them, clutching their Snow White-themed popcorn bucket and souvenir cup, looking completely stunned.
Please?
For which movie?
As if the night couldn't get any more painfully ironic, Zegler clutched a bouquet of flowers, probably a pity gift from her friends because the box office sure wasn't handing out any awards. She may have played Snow White, but the only thing this movie is kissing is rock bottom, with a miserable $3.5 million in Thursday previews and a disastrous $43 million opening weekend. Disney's Snow White isn't just a flop. It's a ridiculously expensive one. Compared to The Little Mermaid remake's $95 million debut, this disaster isn't even in the same ocean. And let's not forget Dumbo. Sure, it pulled in a similar opening weekend total, but with a way smaller budget. Speaking of budgets, Snow White cost a jaw-dropping $250 million to make. And that's before even factoring in marketing costs. With theaters looking emptier than ever, critics are having a blast ripping this disaster apart.
163,000 rating, of which it got 1.6, not out of 5. Like, you know, sometimes you go to McDonald's, it's 1.6 out of 5.
Yeah.
1.6 out of 10.
Vinny, you know what that is?
How bad is that?
Social media is flooded with seating charts showing barely any tickets sold and sad photos of lone audience members sitting in near-deserted rows. And because the internet never skips a chance to poke fun, some are even joking about starting a GoFundMe to help Disney break even, as this remake crashes and burns at the box office. An old clip of Zegler has resurfaced, and let's just say, it did not age well. Once upon a time, she confidently claimed that people would line up to see her movies. But now, the only thing piling up is the cold, hard evidence that Snow White is a royal catastrophe. In the now viral video, she passionately insists that, despite her flaws and imperfections, she hoped audiences would still wait in line to watch.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them, that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Fast forward to reality, and the only thing lining up is the internet, ready to tear her apart. Theaters across the country sat empty. Ticket sales were a disaster, and critics didn't waste a second calling her out. One user put it bluntly, "Welcome back to reality. Princess Snow White was a complete flop. Ian Miles Chong only added fuel to the fire." Reposting the clip on X and reminding everyone that Snow White now holds the title of Disney's worst-performing live-action remake in decades.
But I was basically the only person in the theater. Very few people wanted to see this. Even the little kids who like Disney movies, even they don't seem to be turning up in droves for the movie because the movie is really, really bad.
Turns out, Snow White wasn't the only thing crashing and burning. So was Rachel Zegler's relationship with co-star Gal Gadot. A bombshell Variety report just peeled back the curtain on the behind-the-scenes chaos surrounding Disney's latest catastrophe. And spoiler alert, Zegler was right in the middle of the drama. According to anonymous but well-connected Disney insiders, execs were already on edge over Zegler's wild remarks slamming the original Snow White.
Like, I'm being so serious. I watched it once and then I went on the ride in Disney World, which was called Snow White's Scary Adventures. Doesn't sound like something a little kid would like. Was terrified of it.
But instead of reining her in, they stayed silent. Then came the real disaster. Zegler took the stage at Disney's D23 event, all smiles and charm, until the moment she walked off. Everyone was stunned when she wrapped up her post-show gratitude speech with a bold and completely unexpected political statement. You best believe Disney went into instant panic mode. Execs were shook. Their $270 million fairy tale had just crashed headfirst into a full-blown political firestorm, and suddenly, damage control became the studio's #1 priority.
Behind the scenes, you guys know as well as I do that those executives like Spielberg are looking at that saying, Rachel Zegler can F right off.
Now, Jonah Platt has jumped in to throw some serious shade at Zegler. Jonah, son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, took to Instagram in a now-deleted comment to call out Rachel Zegler over the film's disastrous box office failure. And let's just say, he did not hold back. According to Variety, The Hollywood Reporter, and People, Jonah spilled the tea that his dad had to literally hop on a plane just to personally scold Zegler for dragging her personal politics into the film's promo tour. This is called adult responsibility and accountability, Jonah wrote, making it crystal clear that he believed her actions tanked the movie's success. Even after Mark Platt personally flew to New York to beg Zegler to tone it down, she wasn't exactly receptive, and the post stayed up for quite a while. Meanwhile, things between Zegler and Gal Gadot, let's just say their mirror dynamic took a sharp turn. While insiders claim they were all smiles during filming, the reality behind the scenes was a different story. The lead up to the film's release got awkward, fast. But it didn't stop there. After the two shared an uncomfortable moment while presenting at the 2025 Oscars, Zegler took things a step further with what many saw as a subtle but shady jab at Gadot. In an Instagram reply, she basically called Gadot a professional pageant queen, and the internet immediately picked up on the shade. Even Disney insiders couldn't ignore it. It came off as dismissive toward a fellow actress, but the tension had already been brewing behind the scenes. The real issue? Zegler and Gadot ended up on opposite sides of a highly charged political debate.
My name is Gal, and I'm Jewish. Isn't it crazy that just saying that, just expressing such a simple fact about who I am, feels like a controversial statement? But sadly, this is where we're at today.
Zegler's one-sided political posts reportedly caused major problems for Gadot, who, because of her background, became the target of intense backlash and even threats to her safety. Things got so bad that Disney had to shell out extra cash for additional security to protect the mother of 4. She didn't understand the repercussions of her actions. For the film, for Gal, for anyone, an insider revealed. And as if that wasn't bad enough, the $270 million disaster was already hemorrhaging money from expensive reshoots and Zegler's non-stop controversial takes. Then came the final straw, right after the presidential election. Zegler set off a firestorm with a single Instagram post, "May Trump supporters never know peace." That one sentence sent Disney executives into full-blown panic mode. At that point, the studio had it. She was driving away half the potential audience for an already sinking ship. In a last-ditch effort, producer Mark Platt personally flew out to meet with her not once, but twice. After plenty of back and forth, Zegler finally caved, agreeing to work with a Disney-funded social media expert to approve every single post leading up to the film's March 21st release. But just when it seemed like the drama between Zegler and Godot had cooled off, online feud watchers jumped back in, this time over something new. A glaring omission in Zegler's latest Instagram post has fans buzzing. On March 20th, just hours before Snow White stumbled into theaters, Zegler took to Instagram, calling the film a life-changing experience. She gushed about working with the greatest crew in the world and raved about how she fell in love with the team she spent 3 magical summers with in London. But who was conspicuously missing from this love fest? Gal Gadot. No mention, no photos, nothing. And of course, the internet noticed. Could it have been an innocent oversight? Maybe. But when you factor in Ziegler's Oscar night dig and all the behind-the-scenes tension, it's hard not to see this as yet another not-so-subtle snub. And the drama? Oh, it doesn't stop there. As if Snow White's catastrophic box office numbers weren't already a fairy tale nightmare, the endless controversies surrounding Rachel Zegler are only making things worse. From the moment Disney cast her as the new Snow White, the internet exploded. Some critics took issue with a Latina actress playing the pale-skinned princess, just like the backlash Halle Bailey faced when she was cast as the Little Mermaid's Ariel. Zegler, however, didn't hold back. In a since-deleted social media post, she fired back at the outraged keyboard warriors. Yes, I am Snow White. No, I am not bleaching my skin for the role, she wrote, according to the Wall Street Journal. She even went as far as calling her critics losers, who were obsessed with maintaining the bloodline purity of a cartoon princess. Safe to say, that didn't exactly calm the storm. In a 2022 Variety interview with Andrew Garfield, Zegler addressed the chaos surrounding her casting, admitting she had become a trending topic thanks to angry people. But while controversy can sometimes boost a film's success, Snow White isn't getting that kind of magic. From the moment it was announced, Ziegler's Snow White has been fighting an uphill battle, and her own comments about the story have only made things worse. In a 2022 interview with Extra, Zegler stirred up controversy when she bluntly called the original 1937 Snow White storyline weird.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story. With a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time.
Disney had already hinted at modernizing the Snow White remake, but Ziegler's wording made it sound like she was completely dismissing the original film's beloved romance. What really set people off, though, was her claim that they were taking a different approach with the story. Critics slammed her for trashing the very film she was supposed to honor, arguing that Snow White, Disney's first full-length animated movie, is a classic for a reason. Some even pointed out the irony. If you hate the story so much, why take the role? One fan bluntly asked on X. And just when it seemed like things couldn't get any messier, the drama surrounding Disney's live-action Snow White went far beyond Zegler's casting. Oh no, the controversy ran much deeper. Peter Dinklage had plenty to say about the film's handling of the 7 Dwarfs. Back in 2022, during an episode of Mark Maron's WTF podcast, the Game of Thrones star did not hold back. He called out Disney's hypocrisy, patting itself on the back for casting a Latina actress as Snow White while still telling a story about 7 dwarfs. The contradiction did not sit well with him.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that fucking backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the are you doing, man?
He questioned how a studio could push for progressiveness in one area while still clinging to what he saw as an outdated portrayal: 7 dwarfs living together in a cave. His blunt criticism set off a firestorm online. Soon, even Wem Wenders chimed in to share his 2 cents on the controversy.
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. One, because what they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's 4 dwarfs.
Some praised Peter for calling out Disney's selective approach to progress, while others fired back, arguing that he was erasing roles for actors with dwarfism. The debate got loud, and Disney clearly took notice. The very next day, Disney scrambled to contain the backlash, rushing out a statement claiming they were reimagining the 7 dwarfs and had been consulting with members of the dwarfism community. That different approach? Ultimately, it meant scrapping the classic 7 dwarfs altogether. And what did they replace them with? CGI dwarfs. The backlash was instant. and brutal. Fans took one look at Disney's CGI creations and practically recoiled. The so-called photorealistic approach? A total misfire.
That is totally uplifting and the right way to be woke, Link, when you actually canceled the roles for the marginalized population because just putting them on screen is somehow racist.
Turns out they went with the quiet exit. According to Variety, Disney ditched the usual star-studded premiere in favor of a low-key daytime pre-party on March 15th, followed by a subtle screening at Hollywood's iconic El Capitan Theater. Even the European premiere got the hush-hush treatment. Instead of a glitzy affair in London's Leicester Square, Disney tucked it away in a secluded castle in northern Spain. So, what does this say? A lack of confidence? Fear of controversy? Or maybe a quiet admission that the film just wasn't going to deliver? Whatever the case, for a project already drowning in scandal, this toned-down premiere felt like yet another warning sign. With a muted rollout, relentless backlash, and a box office flop that didn't even come close to justifying its $270 million price tag, Disney was clearly bracing for impact. Snow White wasn't just a fairy tale. It turned into a cautionary tale. And now that the dust is settling, the real question remains. How did Disney get it so wrong? Let us know in the comments what you think about the PR nightmare surrounding this remake. And if you're craving even more Snow White drama, then this is the next video you need to watch.